Welcome, brave souls, to the chilling depths of horror in detail. Today we're going to share serial killer encounter horror stories. First story: did I witness the spirit of a murderer? So, for context, I live in Melbourne, Australia. And on the suburbs outside the city, there is a prison called H.M. Prison Pentridge that functioned up until the 80s. It is most famed for being the place where Ned Kelly was hanged and buried, but most of the original building has been lost to housing developments. The place is abandoned and only accessible by ghost tours, as the prison is famed for being ridden with paranormal activity, with the earliest paranormal sightings occurring in 1919. Earlier this year, I went on a ghost tour through the D Division, and we were on the ground floor, and I was looking toward the back wall. The wall was around 15 meters away, and the closest cell towards the back belonged to a serial killer named Mark, nicknamed Chopper. Red. He is most notorious for cutting off his ears while he was in prison. He claimed to have killed 19 people, but he was never charged with murder. This specific cell he stayed in for the majority of his 25-year sentence was behind a gate where they kept prisoners who would be bullied and beaten by other prisoners, such as rapists and pedophiles. But Chopper had a good reputation among the guards, who would often let him out of his cell and into the greater caged-off area. He was released from prison and became a novelist and author of children's books. He died of liver cancer in 2013 as a free man, but some people say his spirit is still trapped in Pentridge. So anyway, the guide was talking, but I was looking up toward the back wall where Chopper's cell was. And I see a shadowy black figure of a man leaning against the back wall, with his arms folded and one foot up against the wall. Then when we were going to move on, the figure pushes itself off the wall, stumbles a little, I blink, and it's gone. I couldn't stop thinking about it on the drive home. Apparently, many people have also experienced this. Just felt like sharing. Have a nice day. Second story: what did I just encounter? I'm currently staying with my dad and my child at home while my apartment is being renovated. We live in northern parts of Texas, a few hours from Oklahoma, and close to Palo Duro Canyons for geographical context. It's an extremely small town, less than 1,000 people, and no stores or gas stations. I got home from work late, around 10:30 p.m., and my parents were both in bed. I parked my car, and about halfway to my front door, I heard a man's voice behind me say, "What are you doing?" Every hair on my body went straight up, and normal being a Texan from a rural community, I carry a pistol in my waistband. Coyotes and all kinds of other wildlife like to make their way into town near houses, and it's mostly for safety from them, or any serial killers pulling off the highway that bypasses town looking for his next victim. You never know. Tonight was the one night I didn't have that pistol in my pocket. I walked faster to the door and got inside as quick as possible. I couldn't run because of a leg injury that's left me pretty limpy most of the time. I checked that both of my parents were in the house and made sure they weren't pulling a joke on me, and I grabbed a rifle by the door and went out to investigate. There wasn't any sign of someone being around, and my dad's 2 dogs in the backyard didn't make a peep. They normally go crazy barking when someone's that close on the property. My dog, who was inside at the time, was doing everything possible to try to get outside with me. He's very protective and has gone after multiple people who have tried to hurt me. I don't think this dog knows what fear is. I'm not convinced it was a neighbor either. We've had the same neighbors around here for 10 plus years, and I know them all very well. None of them would be concerned coming over. They know my car. It's the same one I've been driving since high school, so they know I'm not some stranger. I know all of their voices. I've had coffee with many of them, and during the summers we always exchange vegetables from the gardens. This wasn't even close to a voice I recognized. Third story: one of 2 encounters that have always bothered me. Okay. So basically I was raised very strict Christian and have never really believed in ghosts, but I do believe in demonic entities or something that is definitely evil. Now that I'm older, I'm still on the fence about believing in ghosts, as in things that are spirits of dead people roaming about that have no ill intent. Even with this belief, I still loved a good horror movie, and admitted that a lot of other people's encounters were hard to explain if the paranormal entity in question seemed harmless. Remember this part, it's important to the next story. When I was in high school, I was best friends with a girl who was a little bit weird, and the definition of a pick-me girl, LOL. We'll call her Amanda. I would stay at Amanda's house basically every weekend, and after we graduated, I was there pretty much 24/7. Never once did I feel weird in her house. One day, Amanda calls me basically in tears, insisting someone has broken in her house, that she hears footsteps and banging, and I told her I'd come over and check it out because I lived literally 2 minutes down the road. I show up, and the doors are all locked. I, being an idiot, jokingly start kicking in doors, yelling out, calling for any serial killers to come out. It made her laugh and feel better, and TBH, it kind of made me feel better too. Weeks pass. We forget about the situation and go on with our lives. Suddenly, Amanda is telling me how her dad finally fixed the upstairs bathroom shower where her bedroom is, and that every time she uses that shower, she feels like she's being watched and the lights flicker and it creeps her out. I play it off as her just being spooked or trying to creep me out. Then another time her mom is talking to me and tells me she got spooked because the door to that bathroom got stuck and felt like someone was holding it shut. Again, I play it off as something that can be scientifically explained. Their house was split level, and her parents basically had the entire downstairs, and their kids had the upper level. There were 2 rooms that suddenly started bothering me, and it was the upper living room and a laundry room downstairs. Every time I go upstairs, I'd see a black figure in the corner of my eye. And every time I go to the laundry room, it was eerily dark, even with lights on, and freezing cold, even in the middle of summer. It was weird, but I just avoided those areas. I had read something about how sound vibrations can cause people to think they see something that's not there, or something along those lines. Point is, it made me feel better. And the laundry room, I figured, was just because it had concrete flooring. One night, I had come over late after work, and Amanda went downstairs to take a shower, and I laid down on her bed with her door open and my back turned, and I got this awful feeling of being watched. And you know how sometimes you can almost hear when someone is sneaking up on you? Well, I had that feeling. I immediately sat up and looked at the doorway, convinced it was her brother screwing with me or the dog had come upstairs, but there was nothing there. I couldn't shake that feeling, though. It felt like someone was literally walking in through the doorway and staring holes into me, and at any second something scary was going to happen. I sat there for probably 2 minutes just staring, debating if I should book it, pray, or scream LOL. It felt like forever, but I finally heard Amanda coming out of the bathroom, and immediately the feeling faded. I immediately tell Amanda about this, and when she hears it, she kind of brushes it off and says that it's her grandpa's ghost and he likes to mess with people in the house. I remind her of all the horrible things that have been happening lately, and she tells me that her mom had bought sage and was going to sage the house to get rid of it, but had a dream where her dad came to her and said it was him just playing and decided she wouldn't sage it. I'm creeped out at this point, but decide it's too late for me to drive home and just decide to sleep in bed with her. That night, I have awful nightmares. Like being chased in the dark, weird voices saying stuff I don't understand, something wanted to kill me type nightmare. I wake up, tell myself I am just freaking out. From that day on, I kept getting them and they get worse. It wouldn't be every night, but it was often. One night, I was sleeping in my boyfriend's house and had a sleep paralysis type nightmare where something opened his bedroom door and crawled in on the ceiling, picture alien, but with a human head and long talons. I woke up halfway, through unable to move, and kept trying to call out for my boyfriend, but instead fell back asleep, and the dream picked up right where it left off at. I text Amanda's mom, and she reaffirms there is nothing evil in her house. It's her dad, and he was just playing pranks on all of them. A few more weeks pass, and I stop going to Amanda's house because 1, demons, and 2, Amanda starts acting shady. She's doing things that I don't like, such as sleeping over at my ex's house, sending me Snapchats of them together, constantly talking of him, and just being a jerk. She also somehow figures out my new boyfriend's Twitch account and is constantly watching him stream, trying to get him to talk to her, asking for his Snapchat, number, Insta, etc. And at that point, I lose my shit on her and cut all ties from her. Coincidentally, the nightmares stop. Someone please tell me I wasn't just having some kind of psychotic snap. It was at a bad point in my life, but the fact her family knew about it and thought it was a dead relative makes my skin crawl. Fourth story, when the upstairs neighbor is a serial killer. Hi, I'm a witch looking for some advice. I saw a spirit in the home of some members of my coven when we were hanging out last night. I don't usually see spirits, so I said something to them. We cast a circle and did some divination, pendulum, and cards that gave us some ideas about him. We've had our suspicions for a while that the upstairs neighbor is involved in trafficking. He likes to take young native girls home that are seen for a few days and then just gone forever. It's the bad side of town in a very rural state, right next to the reservation. We found the spirit's identity in the missing persons list from a city a few hours away. When we called his name, the energy became more focused and we were able to communicate with him via pendulum. We know when he died and a vague idea of how, and all the spirit's rage is pointed upstairs. He's on good terms with the members of the coven. I asked it if I could be shown where the body is and got a yes. It's on the property, I think in one piece, but maybe not immediately recognizable as him. I feel like I'm in a TV show, my friend to try to hustle to move out of that house, and whether to submit a police report or not, because all I have to work with right now is the ghost of this missing kid swung my pendulum in a circle, so now I know he's in the shed. All this kid wants is for his family to have closure. He still hasn't had a funeral. He's been missing for months. If any of you have some practical advice, I'd appreciate it. I want my friends to be safe. Fifth story. Got weird vibes from being somewhere, only to learn that it was the dumping ground of a serial killer. Since I work night shifts, I like to spend my nights off at the gym or driving around. One night last week, I found myself on a secluded road ending at a boat ramp, somewhere completely rural. A pair of railroad tracks crossed through the road on the way to the boat ramp. I've been here quite a few times during the day, but I hadn't been there in a while and figured I'd go during the night to see if it's a good stargazing spot. Now I'm more of a logical, skeptical person when it comes to the paranormal. I love reading spooky stories, and I love watching true crime. I've always said that I need a genuine encounter with something supernatural that defies logic to convince me. Being at this boat ramp definitely did. I had no reason to believe anybody else was there. While it is so secluded that no lights are on in the park, I felt something was there. I didn't feel alone. It wasn't long until I noped out of there, maybe 30 seconds tops. Having an interest in true crime, I know of a serial killer that had once operated in my area in the 70s. I did not know any specifics of the victims or where they were found, only that they were found in orange groves, if that will give you any hints. So tonight I decided to do a little digging, try to find maps, newspaper articles, or archives that might have given some indication as to where any of his victims were found. But I had one. In a documentary that's on YouTube, a split-second shot of a newspaper declaring his third victim found at that railroad crossing. Instantly, chills ran through my entire body, and I've been sobbing for no reason since then. Even now, as I'm writing this. Granted, the remains are long gone, as they were found in 1973. The killer is behind bars. Whatever I felt there that night, it was horrifying, and that was before I knew of its relevance to that case from back then. It's to the point now that I will never go back there at night. I did not like the energy I felt there that night. I've told of this location to a friend of mine who is a paranormal investigator, and they said it's possible, given my reaction to the location, that it may be haunted by the spirit of his victim. Has anyone else had an instance like this? where you got strange, scary vibes of a place, only to learn later that it has some gruesome history. Sixth story. Was she a serial killer in a past life? What do her dreams mean? Okay, so there is this woman who has been having reoccurring nightmares her whole life and believes that they mean she was a serial killer in a past life, as they are vivid and do not relate to herself or her current life in any way. She is nonviolent and sane, probably. The dreams. She is a man in his mid-20s to 30s, living in a secluded farmhouse in a hilly, mountainous location during the 1940s to 1950s. He is Caucasian and speaks English. His sister's name is or Anne. He is jealous of her as he perceives that she used to bully him. His name could be James. His victims are all young, 17, early 20s, moderately skinny, average height, with medium dark-colored hair, and they are all very pretty. They all resemble the sister that he hates. He brings them to his secluded farm, tortures them for a while using an odd contraption, which he used to push their bodies into compromising positions. He's built from what appears to be abandoned parts of other things, likely farm tools, before killing them. Once his victims were dead, he buried at least one of them on his property. He would dig her up frequently and masturbate over her decomposing body. Her dreams don't continue past the 1950s, so it is likely that this killer would have become inactive at that time. She is fairly certain that he killed about 50 women. If her hunch is correct, and this is her past life, then he has to have died before 1982, as that is when she was born. I have been through all of the known serial killer, solved and unsolved cases of the 1940s and 1950s that I could find. Nothing clicks so far, but this was during World War II, so it's hard to see who was missing among civilians at that time, especially in rural areas. Any thoughts or suggestions? She would like to bring closure to the women he killed and any relatives or descendants they may have. And she would like to know the truth of these dreams. If these are not memories of a past life seeping through, then what are these dreams and what is causing them? The rest of her life is relatively normal. Seventh story. It's tough dating a serial killer. We lived in the country, just Suzanne and I. A 2-story house on a 3-acre lot. A gate of tall trees gave us privacy from what little neighbors we had. I try to keep the yard as clean as possible. Our brick house like a castle in a deep forest. A sanctuary for Suzanne and I's wildest dreams. Our relationship began on Tinder. I was 25 at the time, Suzanne was 24. And even at such a young age, Suzanne was already a wealthy career woman, both from family and from her upper-level executive gig down at Vernon Enterprises. She was smart and fit. With striking brown skin and long black hair, she was always dressed for success, even in the bedroom. We were a cute couple too. I was the scrawny, nerdy type, goofy smile, big green eyes, non-traditionally handsome. But with all the free time I had, I tried to improve myself as best I could for Suzanne. I've been working out and chasing a slowly developing six-pack. Overall, we were doing great. One of the only issues we had was when Suzanne brought her bossy attitude back home with her from work. Like a tornado of X chromosomes, she'd come home bitching every weeknight. I mean, I get that I didn't have a job. I was the house husband, or better yet, a glorified servant. But I hated how my queen constantly reminded me of this. All the time. Stephen, cut the damn grass. Put this shit up. Clean the bathroom. You don't do shit all damn day. The barrage of demands cut into me like knives. Suzanne had a pretty and elegant voice. Yet when she was on the warpath, her voice took on the tone of a barking drill sergeant. But I did my best to avoid arguing. The fights weren't worth it. Not when we had a special bond. Even if Suzanne could be harsh, I still loved her. Our love like a roller coaster full of high peaks and crushing lows. And all I wanted was to keep her happy. I had to. She was a serial killer after all. Every week, we'd have a new roommate. Sometimes a woman, sometimes a man. All of them attractive. And Suzanne would keep them alive for days. They'd be her entertainment. Like accessories made of flesh and blood. Living, breathing accessories until she gutted or decapitated them with her butcher knife. Then like exploding stuffed animals, crimson cotton would fly out everywhere. The scattered limbs and organs reminiscent of pieces off broken action figures. Most of the victims were out-of-towners, so no one ever cared. Clueless tourists or college students Suzanne would find. They wouldn't be missed here. Not in Americus, Georgia. Of course, the task of cleaning up always fell on me. And Suzanne's inspections were thorough. Like a field slave, I worked all day burying the bodies in the basement. I had to be damn near perfect, too. Regardless of the ridiculous expectations, I did my best. This relationship had to work. Because I loved Suzanne. And also, I didn't want to see her get caught. I didn't want my soul mate taken away from me. No matter how much most of y'all probably feel she deserved it. We were a team, after all. And if she put up with my bullshit and my chronic unemployment, then I could deal with her eccentricities. And living with a monster wasn't all bad either. Especially with a monster this pretty and caring. Suzanne was a perfect combo for me. Both my inspiring muse and my meticulous overseer. She paid the bills and kept me warm. And gave me the time to write due to her support. But like a terrifying teacher, I damn sure wrote and stayed on schedule to keep her happy. Thank God she liked the stories. I wouldn't want to endure a bad review written by her butcher knife. And we had fun too, even if we spent all our time hiding in this southern fortress. We weren't so much prisoners as we were celebrities enjoying our privacy. Just Suzanne and I. We'd even got married here. We always found ways to entertain ourselves. Netflix horror movies, having fun in the bedroom. The only problem was Suzanne could be so moody, and the sex wasn't happening as frequently as I liked. Yeah, we'd fool around sometimes and have sex once or twice a week, but outside of those momentous occasions, I felt like Suzanne stifled her and I's sexuality for selfish reasons. And I'd long for her so much. Honestly, I'd get waves of excitement just from her grabbing my ass or from her pretty eyes gazing over at my morning wood. That was the closest our carnal desires ever got during those irritating intimacy intermissions. Then again, I suppose she made me wait on purpose. She made me really want it. And hey, the strategy paid off judging by our weekly fireworks. But the waits were just so unbearable. Like a starved child, I'd watch Suzanne with hungry eyes. And when she'd leave me on those weekday mornings, I'd be stuck here all alone, at the mercy of a merciless murderer I adored. Suzanne told me if I ever left the castle, she'd hunt me down and slaughter me, Mama, Daddy, and both my sisters. And she'd keep me alive just to watch. She'd kiss me right before dissecting my stomach like a demented doctor, all while I was still conscious. She'd say all this with such a cute, devilish smile, too. And I knew she meant every word. Suzanne made promises, not threats. And she was all business both at Vernon and with her slayings. But I knew she only said this because she cared. She didn't want me to leave her. Ever. And I couldn't. Like a blood pact, I agreed to stay in the house. I'd support her like an elderly husband caring for a senile wife. I was the house husband, after all. And like Suzanne would say, who'd believe me anyway? If I were to snitch on my one true love, why would the police believe the unemployed horror writer over the successful career woman? Especially once they found out I buried the catalog of corpses. I felt the same helplessness whenever I considered confessing how Suzanne had beaten and punched and harassed me over the years. But who was going to believe me in this climate? I'd be told to grow a pair. Or better yet, to man up. I suppose in some ways, I'd become yet another one of Suzanne's victims. Only, I liked it. I felt safe in this Tinder trap. Like the alienated writer I always was. Only now, I had a beautiful and fascinating woman for a wife. A wife who was equally weird and wonderful like me, even if she did enjoy slaughtering innocent people. I loved Suzanne's company. I could deal with her bullshit and bloodshed for those blissful nights. Like those agonizing long lines to get to an awesome amusement park ride. I could wait for the weekends. I just despised all those other nights when Suzanne wasn't in the mood. Outside of stray cuddling here and there, she'd keep me at bay. Not just by sleeping on the opposite side of the bed, but by literally banishing me to an island of a blow-up mattress near the bedroom door, right by her elephant portraits and figurines, all while Mrs. Majesty herself stayed on that throne of a queen bed. I mean, I get it. She had to be up for work at 6 a.m. sharp, and my constant writing annoyed her when she was trying to sleep. But going to bed at 10 o'clock was so early. Like an orphan, I had to beg for a kiss, much less get any other fun in on those weekday nights. I was a night owl too, and so was Suzanne, just only on the weekends. My writing kept me up into the wee hours of the morning, usually right around 6 a.m. when Suzanne woke up and rushed to work. Unlike me, she was a robot of efficiency. Suzanne could hop out of bed, brush her teeth, throw on clothes, fix her hair, and be ready for work in an instant. The only problem was she expected me to match her lightning speed. Rather than be in a groggy haze when Suzanne bossed me around like one of her secretaries, I preferred to just stay up all night until she awoke, especially since I had to be on high alert under her scrutiny. So I let her have the throne, and under the dim lamp lighting, I would just write, simultaneously uneasy yet happy to be in my nocturnal creative zone. The blow-up mattress like my cubicle. The morning routine was important for Suzanne, and much like all my other chores, I was terrified of letting her down. Too many write-ups for my love meant discipline, and from what I'd seen, she enforced discipline with a mighty long blade. Friday morning was no different. Sitting on the blow-up mattress, I typed until my fingers hurt, all while my queen rested. Then like a shrill air horn, her alarm blared through the room. Like a beast awakening, Suzanne roared from the bed. Her cold eyes latched onto me. "Well," she said with ferocity. Halfway through a sentence, I stared at my screen. "Just let me finish this real dash." Like a rock, I felt one of her hardened pillows hit the back of my head. "Ah!" I cried. The pillow landed with a thud right beside me. Suzanne had one hell of an arm. "Hurry up, Stephen," she demanded. I slammed my laptop shut and stumbled on top of the mattress. My feet sank as if I was walking through quicksand. "Hold on. I told you to stop walking on the damn mattress," Suzanne yelled, her voice tired but damn sure agitated. Finally, I managed to set foot on the floor. "I'm sorry." A pair of frenetic hands pushed me toward the bedroom door. The force of Suzanne rivaled those of Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. Then again, she had to be strong. "Shit," I said. "Go." Suzanne yelled at me. Struggling, I balanced myself against the wall. "Okay, babe." I opened the door and beelined downstairs like a soldier appeasing their sergeant. In the kitchen, I went straight toward the Keurig. The fridge was decorated by photos of Suzanne and I. All of our smiling pictures. All of them were either taken inside the house or in the yard. We didn't get out much after all, and neither did Suzanne's victims. Their horrified faces stared right at me from the fridge, their mouths duct-taped, their eyes full of fear. Suzanne's personal favorites had all been photographed, and now those images hung up on the fridge like treasure trophies. I guess I should consider myself lucky that she kept the photos of us amongst all the pretty people. As I prepare my love's coffee, I could hear her getting ready, like stadium speakers. Her huge phone blasted Ariana's "No Tears Left to Cry" from upstairs. Suzanne's loud footsteps even overshadowed the Keurig's cries. Manning the coffee station, I got a breather in. At least, today was Friday. That meant Suzanne and I had all night to have fun. A light touch shoved me toward the fridge. Even when Suzanne was being playful, I could feel her rough strength. "You done?" Suzanne asked. I faced her amused smile. I was on her good side for now. "Yeah, it's ready." Seductive, Suzanne fell along my arms. "Thanks for the coffee, babe." "No problem." My silent eyes looked over at the Keurig. Her travel cup was full, the ritual complete. Suzanne leaned in toward my face. "You know what today is, right?" I cracked a smirk. "Yeah." Chuckling, Suzanne caressed my cheek. For a killer, she showed a soft touch when she wanted to. Fun day, Friday. My favorite. We exchanged a passionate kiss. And a killer's kiss never felt so hot. Then, using that precise strength, Suzanne gave me a push back. "We gonna have fun." From there, I walked Suzanne to her car. Back in business mode, she turned down another kiss. We said goodbye, and then she left. I was alone again. Only now I felt rising excitement. Anticipation for the immense joy Suzanne and I would feel later that night. Standing in the driveway, I looked up at the sky. Darkness was still upon us. But even though I'd been up all night, I wasn't ready to sleep. Not at all. Around 6:20, I went back inside. My methodical steps trotted up the stairs. And in the bedroom doorway, I stopped and admired Queen Suzanne's throne. Suzanne never allowed me on the bed with her until the weekend. But during the mornings, the throne was all mine. I crawled onto the large bed, right between our two current house guests, a hot co-ed and jock. Two college kids Suzanne grabbed last week. They were both so sexy, even sexier bound and gagged in duct tape. Suzanne and I both enjoyed seeing the girl and boy squirm in rhythmic fashion. With rhythmic helplessness, dry blood stained their faces like makeup. Tears resided in their pleading eyes. Their muffled cries formed a continual chorus. Their stares begged me to free them. But I didn't care, not one bit. And neither did Suzanne. Comfortable, I placed my arms around each of our latest victims, like a rock star lying between two groupies. Sure, there was some fun to be had when it was just me and our victims. Some pleasure. But the real fun was going to be had later tonight, when the weekly explosion of Suzanne and I's love began. When I joined her for those sweet kills. 8th story. How many serial killers do you know? I doubt that's a question you've honestly considered, am I right? Well, after tonight, you can change your answer from none to one. My name is Victor. I've been doing this for years, and before recently, had nowhere to share my experiences. It's not something you can just talk to anyone about, am I right? Of course I am, and I'll continue to ask you that question with the same answer until you realize that. But back to the point. We live in a world full of addiction. Nicotine, alcohol, substances, sex, and a variety of others. My drug of choice? Simple. The look on someone's face when they exhale their last breath. Call it sick, call it twisted, because it's both. The look in their eyes as tears stream out from the creases and wet their crow's feet, the heavy panting when they struggle to catch their breath and come crashing down to the ground. Me on top of them with the wind knocked clear out of their lungs. And then there's the begging. Oh, the begging is my favorite part, because no matter what they say, what they promise or try to bargain you with, no matter who they may be, when you're in control, you're the one calling the shots, and you're the one with the finger on the trigger. Nothing can stop you. Am I right? My addiction didn't start like most would think. I wasn't some bastard little kid killing animals in the woods or poking fun with torture. I was normal in every way, shape, and form. I was just as normal as you, sitting behind that keyboard with a bag of Doritos and a Mountain Dew. I'd gone to school, made plenty of friends, and developed fantastic and successful relationships, and did well at every job I had. I kept a strong work ethic, was promoted in every aspect of my life, because I worked hard and put in effort where the lazy would sit back and stay at their minimum wage pay grade, going nowhere and hating the lives they came home to. I've been a success everywhere I'd gone and with everything I'd done because successful people are the ones hidden in plain sight. You don't suspect your class president, your boss, or the one running the local charity banquets to be the reason so many missing person reports and unsolved crimes are showing up. You don't suspect them because they take such an active role in being concerned about those things. I've gone off topic a bit from the message I'm trying to share. I'm so sorry. Please allow me to continue. On Saturday, January 27th, 2007, a woman was found dead in her home with a number of puncture wounds to the chest, back, and arms. The exact count wasn't clear because of the severity of the wounds and how close together they were. Of what could be counted, there must have been over 43 entry points. The entry marks couldn't have been any deeper than 2 to 3 inches and were all set in pairs of 2 from the ones counted. There was no sign of forced entry, and we seem to be looking at some kind of cooking utensil, but the exact make of which is undecided. I used a stainless steel cooking fork from a 6-pieces set. They were all clad and easy to clean. I used the fork the following day to cook my dinner. I use it to this very day. On December 31st, 2009, a man was found dead in a local park with multiple gunshot wounds across his neck, chest, and legs. 9mm rounds were dug out of the victim, 8 in all, but no shell casings were found at the scene or any sign of struggle. I used a Canik 55 9mm, and he was a little too intoxicated to make it home, without error. Simple and to the point while the fireworks lit up the sky and drowned the sound out. On Friday, May 13th, 2011, a man was found stabbed to death behind a local bar with over 19 puncture wounds. Over 2 years later, and still no leads or clues to who committed this homicide. The only knowledge of the murder weapon was that it had to have been a ceramic blade at least 7 inches long. The murder weapon was a Victorinox ceramic Santoka knife, and I purchased it on Amazon 4 months before I committed the crime. I've used it multiple times since. These are just a couple of over 27 unsolved homicides I'm responsible for in all. If you feel so inclined, do the research yourself and see how deep you can dig. For now, though, get some sleep. I have work to do on number 28. Ninth story. I think my roommate is a murderer. No, I know my roommate is a murderer. A pretty big accusation, I know, but all the pieces fit together. Ever since the day I met him, I knew he strayed a little bit off the beaten path. Not to sound judgmental, but this guy was weird. When he was in the apartment, he would spend almost all of his time in his closet. Not his room, his closet. It was a pretty big walk-in, so it probably wasn't uncomfortable, but what? If you want so much privacy, why not just lock your bedroom door? I now know the answer to that question. After staying perched in his closet for several months, he took up a new activity, leaving. Not just going out for a drink or to parties. No, he would disappear from our apartment for days at a time, not bothering to hint where he was going or when he would be back. Not that I ever asked. One time he didn't come back for 2 weeks. The first time he disappeared, he came back a day later. Knowing what I know now, I know where he had been. I remember that when he did return, news broke of a murder in our town. At the time, I didn't think to connect the two occurrences. Why would I? For all I knew, he just stayed the night at his buddy's place or went back to his parents' house. But as time pushed on, I began to notice a pattern. When I tell you that every time he disappeared, someone showed up dead, I mean it. Every time. I know this sounds ridiculous, like I am relying too heavily on mere coincidence, but just keep reading. After the first several months of disappearing acts, I still hadn't caught on. It was last night, however, that I started to wonder. I know that it was his 30th time leaving without a trace. I know this because that's how many photos there were. Why my mind decided that this was the time to get curious, I don't know. Funny how that works, isn't it? You spend so much time pushing something from your mind, only to realize it now sits at the very front, pleading for attention. Last night, he had already been gone for 2 days. I was sitting around the apartment, watching TV and dreaming of the prospect of him never returning. As my mind soaked in all of the possibilities of his whereabouts, it fluttered toward a similar thought. What does he do while he is here? The closet. The thought racked my nerves. This guy was already wired differently. What would he say if he knew I was snooping around in his confidential closet? He's obviously hiding something, I thought, and I wanted to know what it was. I locked the apartment door and went to his bedroom. As I stood in front of his closet door, I felt an ice-cold chill drive down my spine. I'm not sure why I was so nervous, but now I know I had every right to be. If he comes home, I'll hear the door unlock and I'll have enough time to get out. I'm going in, I thought. I reached out my hand and tried to twist the knob. Locked. Thankfully, the keyhole was just a small hole that could be picked with a small flathead screwdriver, and we kept one in the apartment in case either of us got locked out of our rooms. I ran to the kitchen and grabbed it, half hoping he'd come in before I had enough time to get back to his closet door. He didn't. I found myself back in his room, picking the lock to his closet door. Click. It unlocked. I was about to finally find out what he spent all of his time doing. I opened the door. I stepped inside and looked around. On the right wall were all of his clothes. On the left wall, however, was something else. As I looked around, nervousness filled my body. Sitting in the far left corner was a small stand with a laptop sitting atop a photo printer. On the adjacent wall were 30 pictures pinned on a bulletin board. All of them had red X's across them except for one, the last one. After a quick look at the photos, I realized that all of them were of different people that I didn't know. Also, they all had a name, age, and address written underneath their photo. As I examined them closer, my nervousness was replaced with horror. All of these people, excluding the last one, the one bearing no red X, were dead. No, not just dead, murdered. I looked at the very first picture. It was the man that went missing so many months ago when my roommate returned from his first disappearance. No way, I thought. My mind was in denial. You know when you gain knowledge of something terrible, but your mind is in such shock that it chooses not to believe it? That happened to me. I didn't want to believe this. Then I looked at the second picture, then the third, then the fourth, all of them. All of the people in the photos were murdered, and they all coincided with the dates that he left the apartment and the dates that he returned. All thoughts of coincidence were out the window. Now I had too much evidence for even my troubled mind to argue with. One question that still went unanswered, though, was who these people were. I had recognized none of them, and their addresses were sporadic. For example, the address of one man was in Phoenix, another was in Boston, and there was a woman in Knoxville. How were they all related? I soon found out that they weren't. They were all random. I found this out when I walked over to the laptop, curious as to what part it played in the whole thing. It was already open, so I moved my finger on a mouse pad to get out of sleep mode. After a few seconds, I was looking at a black and blue website that I didn't recognize. A few moments was all it took to realize that it wasn't a website at all. It was a photo generator. On another tab, there was another generator for something else. I knew it was a photo generator because there was only one button, Retrieve Photo. I had seen nothing like it. It looked like he had built it himself. Then everything in my mind clicked. He had built it himself. Both of them. That's what he had been doing when he sat in his closet every day for months on end. I think it must have gotten pictures from some sort of social media. That's the only way I could think to randomly generate photos of people across the United States. He would hit the button, wait until the photo printed, then use it to find out where the person lived. I wonder how he found their address using only a picture, but then I remembered a special I saw on stalkers being able to track people down starting with only a photo. The thought sent shivers down my body. After finding out where they lived, he would leave the apartment for however long it took to murder them and hide the evidence. Then that sick bastard would return here, mark his victim's face with a red X, and repeat the process. It was like a sport for him. Thinking about all of it made me feel sick. I was roommates with a serial killer. He had already killed 29 people, and he was out killing his 30th right now. As the thought of his most recent victim traveled through my mind, I looked back at the last picture. I want to know if I could estimate my roommate's return by looking at the last person's address. My heart sank as I noticed it was in a town about 15 miles from our apartment. He would be back soon. Just as this thought processed, I heard the clicking of a door being unlocked. He was home. I ran to the laptop and put it back in sleep mode. He couldn't know I was here. He had already killed 30 people. What would stop him from killing one more? Especially one that knew his secret. I swung open the door, locked it from the inside, and slammed it shut. I ran out of his room and shut the door. I walked into the living room just as he closed the front door. "Hey man, what's up? Where have you been the last couple days?" I don't know why I asked him that. I didn't want him to tell me. I was just nervous. He shot me a cold look. "Nowhere," he said, and walked to his room. He didn't come out for the rest of the night. I didn't want him to. I went straight to my room, locked the door, and went to bed. He didn't come out of his room today either until just a few minutes ago when I was watching TV in the living room. "I'm going to the bar. I'll be back in a couple hours." "Don't go in my room," he said, looking straight at me. Shock overtook me. Why would he tell me not to go in there? Did he know? Why would I go in there? I asked. I never have. I met his eyes with my own, not wanting to look away in case it made me look guilty. "I know," he said, just saying. He gave a poor attempt at a smile and walked out the door. I was relieved. If he suspected anything, he wouldn't dare leave me here by myself. I didn't think he was going for another kill, simply because he actually told me where he was going this time. Once I knew he was gone, I got the urge to go back into his closet, to see the red X on the last photo, or to see if he was printing off another. I don't know. I just know I needed it back in there. I tried to brush away these feelings, but to no avail. I locked the front door to the apartment and wielded the tiny flathead and made my way to his room. This time, his bedroom door was locked too. After unlocking it and the closet door, I stepped inside. It looked the exact same as the day before, except for two things. The 30th photo now bore a red X like the others, and the printer was currently printing another photo. The thought of the latter made me most unnerved. Who would be his next victim? He didn't even know yet. He just hit the button and went to the bar like he wasn't a serial killer. I walked to the printer. It was almost finished. I decided I would stay until the photo was finished. I wanted to know what his next victim looked like. I decided that once it printed, I would go to the police. I couldn't let this son of a bitch get away with 30 random killings. I waited for what seemed like an eternity outside the closet door in case he came back home. Then I heard the printer's buzz finally stop. I hurried back into the closet to get a peek at who this bastard would try to kill next. I picked up the photo, and all the breath in my lungs escaped into the humid closet air. It was the first time I recognized someone in one of his photos, and I recognized him all too well. It was me. My heart sank into my abdomen, and I stumbled to the ground. 31st, I thought. He's going to kill me. I racked my brain for any ideas. Calling the police wouldn't work. He would be released until there was evidence of his crimes, and he'd use that time to hunt me down. The irony of being randomly selected by his first generator was insane. Out of millions of people, it chose me. I know for a fact he used a random generator because it currently said printing photo, while the other one sat untouched. Then it hit me. I would replace my picture with someone else's. I went to the other generator. This one was highly different. Instead of pressing a button and grabbing a random victim, this one allowed him to choose his own. He could go to any social media site, take a picture, and voila, his next victim. Instead of just one button, though, this one had many. It was so extensive. It had links for every social media site imaginable. Click on that link and buttons exclusive to that site would appear. I clicked on the site I wanted to use. I noticed that it looked the same as the original site, except for 2 buttons at the bottom. As I navigated the site's different pages, the 2 buttons would change accordingly to accommodate where exactly in the site I was. The whole thing would be quite impressive if it were used for other purposes. As I came to the page where I would get the photo, the buttons changed like I said. Now there were 2. Use this photo and snap reader's webcam. After I clicked on the latter, it gave me the option to print it immediately, so I did. I sat and waited for it to finish so I could replace my own photo with a new one. The buzzing stopped a few seconds ago. The photo was done. I picked it up and looked at who would be his next victim. If it's any consolation, your picture looks better than mine anyway. 10th story. My father is a serial killer. My father is a serial killer. But that doesn't mean he's a bad dad, no. Sometimes stuff happens in your life, and that's it. You can't change anything, so might as well adapt to it. At least that's what Mr. Goldling tells us every Friday morning. That sometimes we cannot control the circumstances and the consequences in which we are in, like when his dog killed and eviscerated his neighbor's cat, and he had to bury its body in his garden and wash the dried blood and remains of intestine from his dog's fur. The smell was the worst, he said. He says he still sees the bright blood, as red as mashed cherries, oozing out of his hands whenever he looks down. Scrubbing doesn't help either. Dad's better, though. He doesn't let his work into his home. He is sweet and funny and always reads the comic strips from the daily newspaper to me. His touch is as sweet as the filter coffee from my school's canteen. His laugh feels and tastes like ambrosia, like cherry blossom poison, like the cat's gutted out stomach, red and warm. So what if I find our butcher knife missing some mornings? So what if I pretend not to see the puddle of blood on our white bathroom tiles? So what if I see white teeth, like mother's rope of pearls, scattered on the table? Just gather them and throw them in the trash. We all have to make sacrifices for our family. My father is very fond of gardening. I still remember fragments of my childhood, pushing my hands into the dirt while Daddy planted the tomato seeds. We knew nothing would sprout because the weather was wrong, and so was the soil, and the constant downpour of hail and rain that our town always witnessed would kill anything that would try to bloom. But we cannot control the circumstances in which we are in. We just take what we can get. Dad and I would open a green plastic sack and fill it with seeds and compost. We still do that, although it's mainly bones and guts now. My sleeves are always bloody, and the shower has started leaking something so thick the neighbors can smell it. But at least we are a family that loves each other, and not many can claim that now, right? It wasn't always this way, though. Mama was a vile thing, always scoffing at me and berating me for being afraid of the thunder and hail and the growling dark beasts that constantly plagued this town. Don't wake me up when you get scared by the noise, she used to say. But Daddy would always come sit beside me and rub my back, tell me there's nothing to be afraid of, that this is a reminder of life and death, of the anger of the gods above us, that we are made to fear these disasters so vast and destructive that could swallow us whole. And I would fall asleep in his arms while he hummed songs that I've long forgotten now. Mama used to bruise me, tell me to see the beauty in them, that I should compare my cuts and bruises to apple trees and blueberries, that I should thank her for being so gentle with me. The first time Dad came home to see me with a swollen black eye, Mother ended up having too. It didn't stop her, though. She used to bring home a lot of strange men. My memories of those times are blurry and hazy like Grandma's TV that only shows static. But bad things must have happened, because when Dad came home again to see a strange man's hand creeping up my thigh, he seemed very mad. They say you never forget your first blood. And it's true. I still remember that wet, squelching sound a knife makes when it pierces the chest. The red, thick blood that leaks and oozes out of the gash. Red like the tomatoes me and Dad tried growing so many times. But all that aside, I'm a very happy individual now. Dad brings me my favorite strawberry cake after work, washes his bloody sleeves, and lays down on the couch with me. Talks about God and Grandma's key lime pie and the cacophony of war and death. Asks me if I want to start planting tomatoes again, but I reply with the same thing every time. I don't like the wet soil anymore. It smells like my mother did when we buried her. So he turns on the TV and we watch The Office like every night. 11th story. A stranger saved me from a serial killer. It was close to midnight when I was leaving the university campus. I had been working late in the photography lab, developing photos for a project my tutor had given me. This was well before digital photography, so I had been in the dark room for a long time dipping the photographic paper into different liquids and left the photos to develop overnight. It was dark, but a short walk back to the car park when I saw someone walk towards me. He was a man in his early 40s, I guess. I was about to cross to the other side when I felt something sharp touch my back. Across the road, a man said behind me in a hushed tone. I headed straight for the man in front of me, ignoring the order, pleading for it to be one of the professors, someone who recognized me. "What are you doing?" he said. I could hear the anger in his voice. The other man, in front, came into view under a streetlight. I grimaced and mouthed for help. I had no idea who he was. He had short gray hair, balding, a chubby, friendly face, and a dark jacket. "So good to see you," he said, embracing me hard, then whispered, "That man has a knife, play along." "It's been a long time," I said nervously, and the man smelled my hair. "You smell really good," he said, putting his arm around me. He led me to the car park, checking behind him to see if the man had gone. "You're safe now," he said. "Thank you so much. Shouldn't we call someone?" "That's a good idea. Do you have a car?" "Yeah," I said, looking around, fondling in my pocket for my keys. Shit, my keys are gone. I thought back to the man and wondered if he had taken them out of my coat pocket. "I can't leave you here alone with someone like that around. I can give you a lift." "We need to report him. I have a car phone. We can do it on the way to your house." I was so grateful and still on edge. He led me to his car, a blue BMW, some sort of sports car. "Where do you live?" he asked. I gave him directions, and we pulled out of campus. All I did was search in the dark night for the man who almost abducted me. He called the university and was put through to security. He described the man to them. "What's your name?" Sally Marshall," I offered. He described me. "I'm a student here." He echoed it and thanked them. He chuckled. "That was a close one," he said. "You have to wonder what would have happened if I wasn't there." We followed the roads to my parents' house, and my shoulders began to relax. "Thank you," I said, and he smiled back to me. His car phone rang. "Excuse me," he said, picking it up. His demeanor changed almost instantly. "Stay where you are, mother. I'm just dropping someone off. I can help you in a minute." "Don't move. You may hurt yourself." "Calm down. I won't be long." He put the phone down, agitated. "What's happened?" I asked. "My mother's fallen over again." "Is she in danger?" "She'll be fine. She has a plastic hip. As long as she doesn't move, I think she'll be okay." "How far away do you live?" He thumbed in the direction we had come. 10 minutes that way." "We can go now. I'll get a taxi from your place." "No, it's fine," he said, shaking his head. It didn't look like it was the first time that it happened. "Please, it's the least I can do. You may need help getting her up." "Are you sure?" "Positive," I said. "Thank you so much." He turned in the road and drove off at speed. I was happy. I was going to help the man who helped me, karma. I saw a car race past us and slam on its brakes and follow. I kept checking the wing mirror, leaning my head to see properly. "What are you doing?" the man said somewhat nervously. "I think someone is following us." He checked the rear view and pulled down a side street, then squealed into another and another. He was mostly silent for the rest of the drive, except for small grunts he made when he changed direction quickly. "I think they are gone," he said. "Thank you, I appreciate that." "Do you think it was the man with the knife?" "Almost certainly. He's not going to want you to get away." I didn't see his face, but I did. A few minutes later, he pulled into a makeshift driveway. The house was on one of those narrow streets of townhouses, with the cars parked half on, half off the pavement. The front garden had been tarmac for the use of cars. The man was visibly agitated when we got out. He searched the stones near the steps, producing a key and opening the door. A musty odor wafted out. "Mum," the man announced. "Who's that?" An old woman's voice shouted from within the house. The man rushed in, and I followed. "You're okay," he said, relieved. "How did you get yourself back in the chair?" "Of course, I'm okay," the old woman said, annoyed. "Who is this?" "Another one. Charlie? How many do you need?" "I'm sorry." The man apologized. "She's got dementia." "No, I haven't," the old woman scolded. The man twirled his finger about his temple. I smiled back at him. "I'll phone you a taxi," he said. "I don't want to leave my mother alone. Do you understand?" "Of course I do. Would you like a cup of tea while you wait?" "Sure," I said, sitting down in a chair opposite his mother. Charlie disappeared into the kitchen. "Who are you then?" "I'm Sally. What are you doing with my awful son?" "He saved me today." The woman cackled. "That'll be a first. I suppose you're going to want to go upstairs, like he does with all the other women. A different one every night." The woman turned to the kitchen and shouted, "What, are you going to get married?" "I want a granddaughter." She rocked back and forth, her arms folded in front of her. That's when I saw him. A silhouette, barely visible through the net curtains at the front of the house. I watched as a head disappeared from view, then heard sounds of scratching from the front door. "Charlie," I whisper shouted. He returned moments later with a mug of tea. "What's going on? Is my mother telling you stories?" "There's someone trying to get in." I got up and ran to the corner of the room and hid in a small ball. All the anxiety that I'd been holding back exploded. Charlie turned off the living room light. "What are you doing?" his mother whined. "Chill." He peeked around the net curtains. Apart from his wailing mother, it was silent. "Do you think it's him?" I asked, suddenly more than aware I was in a stranger's house, with a potential rapist/killer trying to get in. "You're just like all the others with your crying. Why don't you find a nice woman, Charlie?" I jumped when I heard thumps at the back door, large bangs, as if someone was forcing all their weight onto it. Panicked, I got up and ran. "Don't go upstairs. It's not safe," Charlie pleaded, stuck between stopping me or running to the back door. I took the stairs two at a time. On the landing, there were 3 different doors. I went through the first one on the left and closed it behind me. There was a bed, and someone slept. "I'm sorry," I whispered. I sighed when they didn't wake. From downstairs, I heard screaming, the old lady screaming for her son, then high-pitched crying and wailing, then silence. I stayed where I was, hiding in the corner behind the door. Then there were calm footsteps as someone ascended the stairs. I held my hand over my mouth, stifling my labored breaths. I heard doors open and close, knowing that mine was going to be next. I wasn't scared when the door opened. I was relieved. In that way you feel better when you're caught in hide and seek. The tension is broken. From where I was, hidden in the corner, behind the door, I couldn't see the man when he rifled through the bed sheets. "Dear God," he said to himself. "I didn't do it on purpose. It must have bounced off my shoe." I watched as the door slowly returned to its previous position, revealing myself to the stranger who stood in the room. "There you are," he said, his eyes wild with madness. "You have to come with me." "No," I demanded, slapping away his hand. He didn't look how I expected. His face was gaunt, his frame slender, the polar opposite to Charlie. That wasn't a suggestion. The man grasped my hand and heaved me up. I clawed and hit his arm as he dragged me out of the bedroom. "Charlie, Charlie," the old woman screamed as we descended the stairs. "What did you do?" I demanded, but he wasn't listening. He pulled a set of keys out of his pocket and tried a few different ones as I pulled to get away, then stopped. Charlie's lifeless body stared back at me from the floor, his eyes still open and looking at me, as if to say, "Run." A trickle of blood painted his face. Behind him, his mother held onto his body and rocked it back and forth. "Charlie, wake up. You have to stop the bad man." She looked into my eyes, and her face contorted. "You whore, just like all the others." Before I could react, I was yanked out of the house and into the street. I tried to scream, but the man held my mouth shut. "You have to be silent if you want to live. Do you understand me?" Petrified, I stood still. "Do you understand me?" I nodded anxiously. "Good, get in the car." He threw me in the driver's side and pushed me over. I pulled on the passenger side handle, but it didn't give way. "Stop it," he shouted. "I'm trying to help." He accelerated away with anger and drove. His breathing hurried. "You're an idiot. You know that, right?" he said, spittle landing on my arm. "Please don't hurt me," I pleaded, seeing the marks on my arm from his grip. "I'm not going to hurt you." His car revved and screamed as he negotiated the narrow streets. After a few minutes, he had calmed. Softly, he asked, "Why didn't you listen to me? Why did you hug him? He said you had a knife." He shook his head. "I was trying to help you. It didn't feel like it." "What did you do to Charlie?" "What I had to." He hit the steering wheel. "I never thought I had it in me." "Thank you. I think he's dying. We need to call for an ambulance." He rummaged around in his pockets. "Are these your keys?" he said, and sniffed defiantly. Stunned, I said yes. "I found them on your friend. He must have taken them from you when he hugged you. I'm going to drive you back to campus." "What's going on?" "He called security about you." "I don't think he did. I'm part of the security team. I'd have heard it over the radio." "What made you think he was going to do anything to me?" "We had a report of a girl being forced into a car by someone meeting his description, but luckily she got away." "Why didn't you do something before? Why follow us out here?" He didn't answer and continued to drive, contemplating what he was going to say next. He sighed. I was scared. I didn't think I could do it. Then I saw you get into his car, and I knew I had to do something. "Why didn't you phone the police? Aren't you happy? I saved you from a madman. Didn't you see what was in the bed?" "What?" He shook his head again. We drove in silence until we pulled up to the university. "Thank you," I said as I got out. I didn't mean it, but it felt the right thing to do. "Think of this as karma," he shouted, then turned around and left. I didn't tell anyone about what happened. I don't know if I was ashamed that it was my fault. I was at breakfast with my parents when my father said, "You need to be careful when you're out there, Sally." He was reading from the local newspaper. "Sorry?" I asked. "Such a shame for prostitutes. They're called sex workers, Dad." "Sorry, 4 sex workers found dead in a house only a couple of miles away from here." "Have they caught the man?" my mother asked. "Yes, he was found dead in the house. His mother said a man and woman killed him. I guess it was a sex worker and her pimp." "Good for them," he said. "You've got to look out for yourself. You never know what could happen." I didn't say a word. "You're not a sex worker, are you, Sally?" my mother asked. "Dear God, no," I said, still thinking about the poor women found in the house. "Can I have a look?" Dad handed me the paper. The man's face stared back at me, no longer the friendly man that helped me, but a somber photo, one from a previous conviction. "Are you okay, Sally?" my dad asked. "That's the face of a killer." I needed to tell someone I trusted. I couldn't keep it to myself. I told my lifelong friend, Jessica. She was in the same classes as me. We'd been drinking after finishing our midterm exams. I told her everything. I told her of the man who pressed the knife into my back, although it wasn't a knife. I told her about Charlie and how he took me to his house. I told her about the tea. That's when it hit me. It was almost certainly drugged. If it wasn't for the man who saved me, I may have not been here to tell her the story. After the holidays, we were on campus. It was staying lighter for longer as summer approached. Jessica and I were walking to my car, and I saw the man that helped me. "That's him," I said. "He's the one who saved me." "Go talk to him," she said. "I can't. He looks cute." "Let me do it." "Please don't." Too late. She jogged over the road and began talking to him. I ran around a faculty building, feeling my embarrassment grow. When I peeked out, I saw them walking arm in arm. Jessica always had a way with words, and I guess her face and figure helped too. I waited for her to phone later in the evening, but she didn't. I guess she got lucky. In the morning, I tried again. Her mother answered. Is Jessica there? No, she didn't come home last night. Is that Sally? Yeah. She said she was going to stay with you. That was the plan, but she met someone. Oh, anyone you know? I thought about it for a moment. My mind flashed back to the sharp instrument placed against my back. No, I said. Can you tell her to phone me when she gets in? I will do. I spoke to Jessica's mom most mornings until the calls became less and less frequent, until they stopped altogether. He saved me. He wouldn't do anything to her. They just ran off together, happily ever after. That's what I tell myself. Happily ever after. Thanks a lot for watching this video till the end. Drop your suggestions in the comment section.